Hey, welcome to the Star Goddess podcast here on the 13th of January, 2020 on the Crash and AJ blog at 98rock.com.
Yes, I love doing this. My favorite thing.
Yeah, I look forward to Mondays.
I get people going, and where is it?
Yeah.
You know, and then they'll post something like, "Oh, thanks for the good news." It's like I just make it up. I mean, I just report it. I don't create it, but I'll be happy to take credit for you if you'd like.
Well, the thing about this, this podcast, if you check out the segment we do at 7:10 each weekday morning, Mondays.
Yes.
We get to go through a little more detail on these signs.
Yeah, because I think it's important that if you know what you can make happen, you know, then it expands the range of possibilities in your life. Mm-hmm. You know, and by the same token, if you know something's not going to happen, it's important to know that too.
Yep.
So we have Mars, the planet of ego-oriented projection. I always think Mars is like your dick. It's where you project your ego out into the world. And it had been in Scorpio for 6 weeks. And I thought it was interesting that the Iran thing, that threat thing, came on the very last day that Mars was in Scorpio. And so literally we went to bed thinking, oh my God, it's going to be like a nuclear war. And then Mars changed signs the next day, and people were like, whoa, wait a minute, let's take a step back, which I thought...
much of a big deal.
Yeah, hold on here. It's a little crazier than we thought, you know, that kind of thing. And I liked it because Mars in Scorpio says bad stuff. Mars in Sagittarius, not so much. So
Interesting.
Okay.
I was happy to see that. I was hoping that would be the particular outcome. You know, so that's a good thing. So whenever Mars is, and everybody can look back to the February 2018 time span and see similar energies happening now that were happening then. You know, and the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again, expecting a different outcome. So if you did good with that energy, yay, you want to continue it. But if you did bad with that energy, good Lord, don't repeat that kind of a deal. So for Capricorns, the sign that we are in, the next 6 weeks is a good time for Capricorns just to take a step back and keep their mouth shut. It's sort of like they'll have the right to remain silent. They will not have the ability to remain silent. And they have to be careful because there's a lot of responsibility that can come their way. If they complain about something, if they say, oh, this is what I think we need to do, and someone's going to say, yeah, the job's yours to do that. And I wouldn't mind that, but there's no more money in it. There's nothing but a whole lot of responsibility. So before you go doing that, it's better just to kind of sit back and let stuff play out rather than throwing yourself out there.
Unless you really want a lot of responsibility.
Unless you want a responsibility, no gratification, and no more money. Ooh, sign me up. You know, all of that sounds bad all the way across the board.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so you really want to try and avoid that. For Aquarians, this is great energy because Mars is now in their 11th house of hopes, wishes, goals, and objectives. It had been in their 10th house of career and public standing for the last 6 weeks or so. And so now they get to see how the group responds to that energy. And it's a good time for Aquarians to work within a group, within a team, to go ahead and make something happen rather than the last 6 weeks. It was all about what can the Aquarian do to advance their own interests. And now the Aquarian is going to shift to the group and say, I need your help in me getting to where it is I need to be.
And are Aquarians usually good with working with groups?
No, Aquarians normally are really good at doing it on their own because they march to their own drummer. They don't like to be told what to do. They don't like to be restricted. If you want an Aquarian to do something, go, you can't do this. And the Aquarian will go, oh yeah, watch me. And so, but for them, whatever it is they're trying to achieve, they will get a lot further if they work within the group rather than trying to go it alone.
Okay.
They'll have a lot more success just asking the group for their help.
So if you're an Aquarian, you got a group that you work
don't
with.
go it alone. Yeah.
It might be right in front of you, right?
Yes, and I think that they'll have a lot more success if they do that, which is what everything is measured in. And they need to know that the things that they put into effect now may not pay off till the end of the year, so they want to take the long view of this is the long game rather than the short game.
Okay.
For Pisces, this energy has gone from their 9th house of legal matters, contracts, and negotiations into their 10th house of career and public standing. And so Pisces everywhere are going to try for the next 6 weeks to really make professional headway through the fruits of their own labor. They're trying to, if they start a new job, you're really going to want to go out of their way to impress the powers that be and say, I'm the right person for the job and here's why. And they get a fairly good result with it. They just have to be careful not to burn the candle at both ends and not to bite off more than they can chew. That they need to be able to pick one thing and give it their undivided attention rather than trying to be all things to everybody. They won't have as much success as if they pick one thing and give it their undivided attention for about 6 weeks or so.
Is it hard for Pisces to kind of focus on one thing?
It's hard for them to, because they're ruled by Neptune and they kind of drift from one thing to another, and they get easily distracted. And this is not a time for them to be distracted.
Oh.
And this is a time for them to put their professional success ahead of anybody else's. This is not a team effort. This is an individual effort by the Pisces.
Gotcha.
So, there's a time and a place to go it alone. And for Pisces, it's this 6-week period.
Wow.
For Aries, important matters at a distance, contracts, negotiations, legal matters, all go very, very favorably for the Aries. The Aries has spent a boatload of money over the last 6 weeks or so with unanticipated expenses and stuff popping up that they hadn't really accounted for. Well, that energy has changed, and now the law is on their side. And when the law is on your side, you want to go ahead and use it. And you also want to be the one to do the reaching out, to be the one that says, okay, I've got this idea, and this is how I want to make it happen, and who's with me to make this happen? Kind of a group type of a thing. But when you have the legal hammer, you want to go ahead and use it.
Okay.
And I think it's important because our rising sign is Aries.
Yay.
So I know you've had a bit of struggle with people that were not quite as cooperative as they should have been.
Oh, yeah.
And that changes dramatically for you. It makes it a lot easier for you.
Okay.
For Tauruses, unfortunately, this energy is in the 8th house of other people's resources. So where Aries went through that last month, Tauruses go through this month, where they have some these are not unanticipated expenses. These are expenses that they have to do.
Yeah.
They've known they'd have to do them. They're not thrilled about doing them, but at least they have the resources to do them with.
Okay.
It's that kind of a deal.
Like
so,
getting a new vehicle.
well, yeah,
I was
you
just
have to
thinking
do
the
it.
same thing.
You have the money set aside. Do you really want to do it? No.
Right.
Do you really need to do it? Yes.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a thing. So it's over the next 6 weeks or so, it would be time to pull the trigger on that.
Okay.
And they also, Tauruses have a big financial fear. I don't know what it is that scared them so much, but it's not as bad as they thought it was going to be. And they should not be afraid of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's something you like driving. You enjoy being in, AJ.
Yeah.
You're the kid line. You got you got something good to hang out in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, but it's just my taste, man. They're either too
Just so
unsafe or too problem child. But
Yes.
they're so pretty.
But they're so pretty. Yeah,
They're
exactly.
so cheap.
Ex-
I love cheap Wranglers.
Oh, they're fun to look at, but man, they're awful to drive. You can't put anything in them. But
I had fun driving them. I've enjoyed
they
driving
are,
them.
They are,
Yeah.
but you don't want to. You haven't been in one like cross country, have you?
No.
Yeah, okay. They're kind of short distance kind of rides, but nothing will make you look hotter than a Jeep, though. That's for sure.
That's always been my dream.
Hotter and younger,
Driving
yeah.
a Jeep Wrangler.
It really is. It really is. Girls do look better in them, by the way. That's a true story.
I ain't gonna deny that.
Yeah. For Geminis, this energy, Geminis, they've had a difficult time at work the last 6 weeks or so, and now Mars is opposing your sign. And when Mars opposes your sign for 6 weeks, everybody goes, you, and you're in the spotlight for one reason or another, and you're going to be forced to defend yourself, and it's directly related to actions you took 2 years ago. But it's hard to realize that what is going on now had its origins in things you put into motion 2 years ago. And I always say you have to be careful on the way up because the people you step on the way up are the people that are going to trip you on the way down.
Right.
And Geminis everywhere find out who their friends are and aren't, which is, I think, an important thing to know. And I have to laugh because our president is a Gemini, and allegedly the articles of impeachment are coming out this week or something. So.
See, call me crazy, but has it been a little bit of a rough go-round for Geminis
Oh,
for the
awful.
last
It's
few
been
months? It seems like it's
awful.
been like one
awful.
thing after
One thing
another.
after another for them. And it's
Man.
true. And again, they started with 6 weeks of grief and aggravation at work.
Yeah.
To where they didn't know who they could work with, who they couldn't work with. They kept getting told that they were doing a bad job with it. And now with Mars opposing your sign, everybody is yelling at you every 2 years or so. I know when that happens to me, I just want to stay home.
Yeah.
Not answer the phone, not answer emails, not talk to anybody, not throw myself out there because why? Have somebody take a shot at you. So I do not think it's going to be the easiest 6 weeks for Gemini everywhere.
You just change your birthday, maybe.
Yeah, that's
right.
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
We're going to celebrate 6 months from now.
Exactly.
How about that?
Exactly.
English,
Exactly.
AJ.
For Cancers, this energy, they had a great time the last 5 or 6 weeks or so. Tons of fun in the love department, kids, all that stuff. Well, now it's time to get back to work, and they have a lot of work that they have to do. This is not a professional promotion, per se. This is not the corner office. This is you get to do your job to the very best of your ability, and some obstacle that had been in your way that had been preventing you from doing that job is gone. And now you really get to do that job and do it well, and as a result of that, you end up with a promotion this summer. So it's the do the work now, but it pays off for you much more so in the June, July, August time span. And also for cancers everywhere, there's some sort of health matter that they've been procrastinating dealing with because they really didn't have an answer. And they find out over the next 2 or 3 weeks exactly what they need to do. And it's not, I don't think it requires surgery. It requires a change of attitude in your mind and how you treat yourself is actually what it is. But I think it's a much more favorable outcome than what they were afraid of. For Leos, you ask inquisitively, this is the most fun time of year for Leo. They had a difficult time the last 6 weeks or so dealing with issues at home. They weren't quite sure what to do. They really didn't want to come out and play. They just wanted to kind of be left alone. And that all changes. And now they are ready to show up to the good time. They're ready to party.
ready.
They're ready to...
I'm always ready for a good time.
Have you been hibernating the last 6 weeks? Are you okay?
I guess a good time. I guess there's different ways to have a good time, right?
No, this is an outright traditional way to have a good
Oh,
time.
really?
Love,
Okay.
laughter, food, amusements, pleasures, anything fun, anything entertaining, anything that has to do with you showing your creativity.
Well, I'm definitely
And
looking
love.
to get more organized. So with more organization, maybe I'll be able to plan some more good times or get involved with other people's good times.
This is actually you having the good time. This is
Yeah.
the Leo having the good time.
Okay.
Because Leos, from the beginning of December through literally this week, Leos had issue after issue at home that they were trying to deal with. Home, foundations, that kind of thing. And they weren't really sure what the outcome was going to be. And they didn't have a lot of ability to influence it. It was sort of stuff that was going on around them.
Okay.
And now all of that is done and they're back out to how can I have as good a time as possible?
That's all. You think about when you say that right off the bat. You think about of course, over the holidays, having to schedule when you're a split house. You got to schedule your kids.
Oh, yeah.
And negotiate with
Yeah.
that. Sometimes it kind of gets in the way of what you wanted to do
Yeah.
because you can't get the other person to cooperate.
Yes.
Right.
And all that is over. Now it's like, sure, now is the easy time.
Yeah.
But it's a very fun, very creative, very fertile time for Leos too,
Sweet.
which is a very cool thing. For Virgos, not so much. This energy is awful for Virgos. And I sit here going, oh, come on. It's in their fourth house of home. There's some sort of problem going on at home, and they haven't really known what to do about it. They've known about this for 2 or 3 years. They haven't really known what to do about it. They haven't really had to do anything about it. But what is going to happen over the next 6 weeks or so is the universe is going to force their hand and say, now you got to deal with it. You didn't know what to do, and it doesn't matter whether you don't know what to do. You're going to have to take some kind of action. And you've almost like you procrastinated too long about doing this. And it's time to take action at home. And I don't know whether that's involved with clearing their home of something. It has to do with their home and their foundations. And it's something that they've been putting off doing, and they can't put it off any longer. They need to just suck it up and do it. And if it costs you a bunch of money, go ahead and do it.
Home issues could be just
Yeah, I
about
think it's
anything.
repairs at home.
Yeah.
I think it's repairs at home. I think it's some sort of circumstance at home they've been putting up with and not really dealing with it. That's like the cousin that comes to stay for a weekend and it's 5 months later and they're still in your house.
It could be like a neighbor right around your home.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It has to do with you not enjoying the quality and serenity of your own home.
Okay.
And they really don't want to take action, but it's kind of back against the wall. You're going to have to. And I'm a big fan of rip that Band-Aid off all at once. I hate ripping a Band-Aid off one little
so
hair at a
slow.
time.
Oh gosh, it's
Rip it
terrible.
off. I'd
Yeah.
rather have a whole lot of pain for a minute or two
Yep.
than
Never
drag
done
it out. And Virgos are known for wanting to rip it off one hair at a time, which is very counterproductive. For Libras, this energy is great for them. It's in their third house of day-to-day living. They have short distance, short duration travel popping up. They get to initiate a bunch of cool things. And they did not know that they were going to have the resources to do that with because they spent a bunch of money over the last 6 weeks or so. And that unanticipated expenses stops. And now they get to, it's something where the pace of their day-to-day living picks up. There's more things to do, but for one reason or another, they can manage that time more efficiently. And they can have an easier time with doing that, which I think is huge too. They may get an educational opportunity of some kind. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to go get a master's degree. It's sort of like a small certificate program, but something that they can take that fills a square that enables them to make more money or have more freedom of movement to do what they want to do.
Is like when you talked about kind of looking back and kind of getting a redo on something that the same situation that came by. How many years?
2 years.
2
So
years ago?
February and March of 2018.
So maybe their pace
That-
picked up, didn't handle it so well that
Didn't
time.
handle it so well then, and they get a better opportunity now to do it again.
Cool.
But money is going to be the thing that motivates them because they've spent a boatload of it, so they need to do something. For Scorpios, I feel bad for them. They are fixing to spend a boatload of money. Mars is in their second house of finances, and every time you turn around, it's $50 here, $100 there, $50 here, $100 there. It's the kind of thing where eventually adds up to big dollars, and that's awful.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's a crummy thing, and I hate to tell them because it's 6 weeks worth of that stuff.
Oh, sorry, Scorpios.
Yeah, but so the thing they need to do is, and especially if something's broken, it's the fix it right the first time, bite the bullet, spend the money, do it right, because if you try and do it halfway, it'll end up
cash
costing
outs.
you way more money down the road.
Yeah.
You know, that's the trouble with that. Is you try and get off cheap and you end up spending way more. Plus, the grief and aggravation associated with time spent trying to get around it
Oh God.
just
yeah.
doesn't make it worthwhile. So for them, I feel actually the worst for them because it's never fun when you're spending money on stuff that's not a lot of fun. It's not like we're getting tickets to a great show or something like that. It's not that at all. For Sagittarius, though, this energy, Mars is in their sign for the first time in 2 years. They feel amazing. They are fired up. They are inspired. They've got a plan to go forward. Saturn isn't in their sign. It had been there for almost 3 years, slowing their roll. They are ready now to come back out and play with a vengeance. They have plenty of passion. They have plenty of enthusiasm. They have plenty of energy. They have plenty of support, and they have a plan. And that's unusual because Sagittarians, they're not leaders. They're not followers. They're kind of wanderers. They just kind of wander around from thing to thing. And this time they have a very direct plan on. They know exactly what they want to do and how they want to go forward with it. And they've just been waiting to pull the trigger, and the trigger is now.
Wow, it kind of lines up with my Leo thing going on.
Yeah. Well, your rising sign is Sagittarius, so, you know, it's stuff you've been working on, and now it's time to pull the trigger and go forward with it. All the pieces have come into play, or they're in place to go forward with it. So over the next 6 weeks or so, it will be trigger pulling time for you.
Bam, bam, bam,
Yeah,
bam, bam,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm a big fan of that, too. You know, so that's tomorrow's news today for the 12 signs of the zodiac.
All right, I promised your fishing
My
story.
fish story. This is a true story.
We did this because there was a grouper that was just
There was
gone.
a
Yeah,
a
here
giant
in Southwest
grouper.
Florida. Yeah,
Yeah,
Warsaw
yeah, yeah, yeah.
grouper. This thing was 350 pounds.
Yeah.
Now, which amazingly isn't the largest grouper that's been
Yeah,
caught.
but I mean,
in
that guy
Florida.
dragged that thing out of the water. I
Hook and
can't-
line. Yeah.
That's so
A
hard
hook
for
and
me to
line.
believe. It took me forever to drag this stupid little fish out. I had a boyfriend that was a fisherman. And we went out and we found this great grouper hole. And we all caught fish. And I caught a great big grouper, big red grouper. And the guy that I was with made the remark, he went, wow, if you dragged that in during a fishing tournament, you'd win a prize for biggest fish. And I'm very competitive. And I went, whoa, okay. So I looked at this little fish and poked a hole in his side and said, look, I'm gonna give you a reprieve. I'm gonna let you go down, go back, be a little grouper, have a great time. I'll come back in 2 weeks, catch you. I'll win this tournament, and then I will give you my address. And then you incarnate a red critter at my place, and I promise you we're not going to neuter you, whatever you are. You'll live a healthy, happy, exalted life. The fish said, okay.
I was like, watch you think of
Yeah,
her
right.
talking to this fish.
Literally, looking at his little face, telling this fish this.
Could you imagine being in the boat as she's telling that
Yeah.
story? You know, there's some people like, okay,
my boyfriend
okay.
rolling his eyes. We're 30 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico in 80 feet of water. And he's like, yeah, okay, Janet. And so I do this. I send the fish back. He makes me pay the $200 entry fee for the tournament. And it's the Tarpon Springs tournament. It's a big time,
Right.
big sport fishermen, serious guys out there. And he and me and my daughter on the minnow. And we go out and I find this grouper hole and we're there and he's getting a little depressed. And all of a sudden, man, my rod hits the side of the deck and I drag this fish up and it's the same fish. And he's got a little hole in his side where you started to heal because you have to.
Oh.
Yeah, well, you know, you have to poke their little air bladder so they can go back down. And
Right.
this hole started to heal, and it was like, Fred the grouper, yay! So I bring him back in, and we go in, and literally when we went in for the weigh-in, they take the fish out and they look and they see the little hole in his side, because guys apparently will catch fish to win a tournament and put weights in their mouth and then drop them back down in a cage and then catch them to win, and I did none of that. And so anyway, we ended up winning like six largest groupers. So I got my $200 back and a couple of prizes. And about 3 or 4 months later, because again I had a bunch of animals at the time, my daughter comes in with this little tiny red kitten, and she goes, "Look, Mom, it's Fred the grouper." And it was like, Fred the grouper. And this cat, you could see, this cat had never had feet before, because all my other cats were really agile and they were cats, and this cat was falling over, had a terrible time walking because it was the first time. That cat lived to be 15 years old, and he was the only male cat I never neutered. It's like, Fred, a deal's a deal.
Right.
I've read the grouper story. So.
Never ate fish either. I
Wow.
bet.
Is that a
Fried
great
it
fish
with some
story?
chicken.
Yeah.
Can I have
No
something?
tuna
I
for you.
Yeah, yeah, this is where I live, incarnate at my house.
It's a great story. Thank you very much for that. And, so we'll be back next week.
That's
More
right.
stories, always a pleasure.
That's right, and we'll know who's going to be making it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
That's right.
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
whether or
yeah.
not some of the predictions from earlier came
Yeah,
true.
hope I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right,
hate
guys,
to be
make sure
wrong.
you listen on each Monday. We get you the live on the radio version and the podcast right here on the Crash and AJ blog. It's the Star Goddess podcast right here on 98rock.com.